had a friend that really liked their flight to Germany, though.
I mean, like, the issue is it's really long, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that actually, I mean, what is that, a 14-hour flight?
So it was, on the way over, it was 11. On the way back, it was 9. But, okay, you know what? Actually, with connecting flights, it was about 11 both ways. Flew from DFW to Frankfurt International, then Frankfurt International back to DFW.
Yeah.
But I had to get from Frankfurt International to Munich, and then from Paris Charles de Gaulle to Frankfurt International. So it was like, 2 hours of connecting flights over, about an hour and a half of connecting flights and customs and airport stuff going back. One thing I will say, Deutsche Lufthansa, they're the German national airline.
Mm-hmm.
So all the crew speak German. Now, obviously, if you're flying to the United States, all of them speak English too. Because if you're flying to the United States, you probably have a lot of Americans on your airplane, and Americans are stupid and usually only speak one language.
Right.
And if they speak two, they're more likely to speak Spanish or French than they are any other language.
Probably even Chinese over German.
Yeah. But I would, by far and away, the most common two languages in the United States are Spanish and English. English by a large margin, right? So you can always tell when the flight attendants are like annoyed at you or have something going on, because they'll just turn to the one across the aisle and start talking to them in German.
Oh, it's like nail salons.
Yeah. And I was like, I saw one of them like give me the death eyes, and I was like, okay, I did something. And then they just start talking in German. I was like, okay, they're talking about me.
You know what's so funny too is like German is actually kind of like, no matter what you're saying, it always sounds like they're really mad at you just because of how German kind of sounds.
To English speakers, it does sound like weirdly phonetically aggressive.
Yes, exactly.
It's like even like a German could be like having a very nice conversation with like their mother or something, and you're just like, what are they plotting over there? Like, what is going on? But it was very cool. I will say, if you are gonna fly Lufthansa, their carry-on size is small.
It's European sized.
No, Air France, KLM, the Dutch Royal Airways, Swedish Royal Airways, British Airways all have like American size, quote unquote American, at this point it's international, standard carry-on sizes, right? Like if you bring a carry-on like hard bag, right? Like the big carry-ons, they'll all fit. Lufthansa's is, I think it's like a couple inches smaller in all dimensions, and it weighs less.
That's unfortunate.
I think there are only like 2 other airlines in the world that have that carry-on size, and it's like a Chilean regional airline that only flies like prop planes, and a Chinese, like the Chinese version of Spirit Airlines, basically.
Nice.
Right? Are the only 2 that have that. So if you are going to fly Deutsche Lufthansa, just be aware. Carry-on sizes are small. I mean, if you are flying to Germany, I recommend bringing a big suitcase, though.
I love Spirit Airlines. Rest in peace, Spirit Airlines.
Dude, is Southwest dying? I heard something about that.
I don't know. Ever since Spirit Airlines went under, I've just flown American, which is like...
I've flown...
It's whatever, I guess.
This summer, I've flown American, Lufthansa, a Lufthansa regional partner, Air France. I think that's it. I took Air France from Paris Charles de Gaulle to Frankfurt International because I was a moron. I should have just booked my flight out of Paris Charles de Gaulle, but I was being stupid. But yeah, I was in Germany. I flew across the Atlantic Ocean. I've flown across the Atlantic Ocean now and almost halfway across the Pacific Ocean. Weirdly, the Pacific was a better flight, but you're over the ocean for more of it, so there's less like stuff to hit. But I will say, if you are flying to Germany, Frankfurt International or Berlin, but I think Berlin is a really busy airport.
That makes sense.
Maybe go to Frankfurt International and like ride the train. Take a smaller flight, go wherever you're going. One thing I will say, the parts of Germany I was in for this trip were pretty much exclusively former West Germany. I was in what would have been East Germany in parts of Berlin, formerly East Berlin, right? I was in that, but we didn't really go into the eastern part of the country nearly as much, which, we can have a conversation about like why former East Germany is kind of behind former West Germany, all that other stuff, especially now 30 years after German unification. But we were mostly in West Germany. There's a lot of the cool stuff you want to see is probably mostly in West Germany anyway. Again, depends on where you're going. I was in Munich, aka München. It's in Bavaria in South Germany. Nuremberg, kind of in like middle west, geographically West Germany, and Berlin. I will say, if you are going to Germany expecting like medieval castles, go somewhere else. All of the ones in Germany, with a very small number of exceptions, that are all out in the middle of nowhere, have been destroyed by one of the wars they were in. The one town in Germany, city actually, that still has some of its medieval stuff in it is Nuremberg. It has some of the smaller cities. You can kind of see it in places. There's a town called Heidelberg that has a castle that I believe is authentic and is still standing. But
it's pretty cool.
It was of no importance in World War II, so it never got bombed. Whereas most of the big crazy stuff in places like Berlin was either flattened by the U.S. Air Force, shelled by the Russians, or shelled by the Americans. By us, I should say. Again, exception to that, the Brandenburg Gate, mostly intact. They replaced the statue, but the actual gate was intact, and the Reichstag was not being used for anything because it had burned out in 1936. So it's still standing. There's pictures of me in front of the Reichstag.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's really neat. I went with the history department, though. It was like a study abroad history thing. Particularly focused, because we were in South Germany, on the origins of the German fascism. I'm going to kind of talk around some of the specific names, but I'm sure you can understand who I'm talking about.
Right, yes.
Yeah, German fascism, because it is essentially a movement born in Munich in South Germany. It's where they had their beer hall putsch in the 1920s. That failed miserably, and the guy who led it, who would go on to lead the fascist party in Germany up until his death in 1945, was not from there, but he was from near there. He's from Austria, pretty much just over the border. So he's very much in that South German culture. Had that beer hall putsch, gets arrested, gets out of prison 1929. Excuse me. Gets out of prison 1929.
Writes a book somewhere in there.
Yes, he wrote a book creatively entitled My Struggle. Your struggle against what, buddy? His book, if you haven't read it, I don't recommend it, but it is interesting because this person we're talking about very much played a character, right? Basically every public record we have of him that survives, there's some personal correspondence, and we have some accounts from surviving German generals or political people about what he was like. But there is one audio recording of his voice where he's not playing a character. So almost the public's entire imagination about this person is the character he played, not the actual dude he was. And the only kind of window into that you actually get is in his book. And I'm not saying the dude was at least severely traumatized. Right, he was in World War I, at least severely traumatized. By the end of his life, he had a number of substance abuse problems, and probably had some other underlying psychological stuff going on. But the book is a shockingly interesting window into his life.
Yeah,
I kind of recommend it on the same grounds I recommend Boris Savinkov's book, where I don't really agree so much with Savinkov. I really, really, really don't agree with the leader of the German Fascist Party. But both of them are very interesting insights into people of historical import. I will say Savinkov is much less historically relevant than...
Less of a household name, yeah.
Yeah. He is one of the guys who helped invent terrorism, though. So...
Interesting.
That was pretty cool. We'll talk about him another day, because I could talk about the Russian Revolution forever, but...
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about Munich, I can't have beer.
Oh, yeah?
So part of the city was wasted on me. I can't have beer. They're very famous for their beer in Munich. I've heard it was very good. I've heard they're, basically they have this big, beer house called Hofbrauhaus. I believe it's in Munich. Yeah, it is in Munich. We went there one day. It's very large. Excuse me. You will see The region of Germany, it's either in German, it's like München. In English, we would call it Bavaria, or sometimes we'll call it Bayernische. In English, we call it Bavaria. Like pretty much the old kingdom of Bavaria, their seal was like blue and white with, I want to say, a bear on it. Yeah, I want to say a bear on it. So you will see that everywhere. It's sort of the city logo in Munich now. It's like on, I don't think they have a flag, but they have like a seal and that kind of stuff. And you'll see it everywhere. And then this specific beer house actually got like legally, even after the German nobility was abolished, got to keep basically the sigil of the former king of Bavaria as their logo too, because they were started by the king, right? The king of Bavaria, as a way to basically keep the populace happy by offering state price-controlled cheap beer.
Now that's a good social program right there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is bread and circuses, right? All wrapped into one beverage. Yeah. But it's relatively famous. Their food was very good. I strongly recommend it. Pro tip: anything with pork in Germany is going to be really good. I didn't get a chance to have the fried pork knuckle because I can't have I can't have gluten, and it was breaded. But they're like, I had pan fried pork neck, so good. It's like the texture of like, I can't even describe it. It's like crispy, almost. It's kind of like if you ever had like really good like barbecue pork steak. Mm-hmm. I'd compare it to that, but crispier. Really good. And when we were in Munich, oh god, historically speaking, we did a lot of background on German fascism as a whole. So we talked about they have some very interesting stuff in the city. Like they have a number of buildings that were owned by the fascist party that are no longer. Obviously, they've been banned for 80 years. Although considering German politics today, you might not think so.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Not to get into my opinions on the AfD, but needless to say, history almost never repeats itself, but fairly frequently it rhymes.
I'm always just surprised that Germany has, like, so many political parties. It makes me a little jealous in some ways.
Well, most places have more than two, Riley.
I know.
Most places either have one and that's it, or they have more than two.
A lot more than two.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, they'll obviously caucus together to get things done.
Yeah, well, because they do, like, parliamentary democracy, right? Where in the United States we have, like, we basically ripped off the Roman Senate, copied it, and then did some weird, like, representative stuff, right? Like, who gets what representatives, all that kind of stuff. And the way it's structured, it basically just incentivizes one party to be the first to get to 51 senators, or, like, 200 whatever congressmen there are. It's like 250 something, I think.
Yeah, I forget what the clear majority in the House is, but it's
not, it's like 200 something, right?
Yeah.
Whoever gets to that basically gets to govern if they also get the president. Whereas in European democracies, they pretty frequently don't have a president. Some of them have a president, but they're not the same type of role as the U.S. president.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Ireland as an example because I know a little bit about their political system. Ireland and the UK both do this, whereas the UK has the Queen, or the King now.
Yeah.
UK has a king who theoretically Parliament gets all its power from. Mm-hmm. Whereas Ireland is structured differently. They don't have a king. They have a president who serves as, technically the head executive, but almost all that power is delegated to the prime minister. And the president is mostly like a kind of figurehead type role, right? Germany, I don't know if they have a president. I think they might. I do know their prime minister is called a chancellor because of quirks of the German language.
Sounds kind of cool, though.
Yeah, chancellor is a really cool title.
I mean, president's a cool title, too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
chancellor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
honestly, I kind of wish like every single country had a different like
a different word for it.
Their figurehead leader was like every single one had a different kind of
like different title. Yeah. Well, I guess back in the olden times when you had kings of places, they all kind of did. Right? Like, oh god, who's the last non-Bonaparte king of France? I think it was Louis Philippe II. His title was probably something like king name
Yeah.
of name king of name, right? I forget his exact, but like I think the king of England is the king of England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, technically the king of Canada and Australia, and up until recently he was the king of Belize. So there's a bunch of like random titles. Back in the Victorian period, Queen Victoria herself was the Queen of the United Kingdom of Britain, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. The Empress of India, the Queen of South Africa, and king or queen of all the million British dominions. But anyway, Munich. I went to a castle. Speaking of castles,
yes,
I went to Neuschwanstein, which we talked a little bit about the kings of Bavaria. The second to last one, Ludwig II, built a big castle out in the middle of nowhere. It's called Neuschwanstein. It is still out in the middle of nowhere,
which is why it didn't get bombed.
Yes, it is still out in the middle of nowhere. I don't think it did anything in the Second World War or the Great War, right? So it is still there. It was built in the mid-19th century, so in the 1840s, but it was very intentionally designed to look about 600 years older than it actually is. So it looks kind of like a 13th century, like if you know the difference between like a 13th century high medieval type of defensive fortification castle versus like a 17th century sort of pike and shot-y type of fortress. The easy way to tell is, are the walls tall or are they thick? Because if the walls are thick, then even if it was built early on, it was retrofitted against gunpowder artillery. If the walls are high but kind of thin, it was built when it was much harder to blow open walls.
Yeah. Nobody had guns and cannons and yeah.
Well, the Chinese did, but they weren't exactly breaking down doors in Europe, were they?
No, I guess not.
No, unless you count the Mongols. But the Mongols didn't have gunpowder. You've got me sidetracked. But anyway, this castle is very much...
a few times already, but continue.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's kind of just what you sign up for when you talk to me, Riley. I'm going to be so real, that's kind of just what happens. But this castle at Neuschwanstein, if you are ever in Bavaria, I recommend it. It is up a mountain. It is most of the way up a mountain.
Nice.
In the Bavarian Alps. The road is paved, but if you are not a cheap, stingy dirtbag, just take the bus up. Or just hire the cute little horse carriage and have the horses pull you up.
That's kind of cool.
Don't walk up the mountain. I walked up the mountain. The professor I went on this little excursion on walked up the mountain. My calves hurt for 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
My calves hurt for days, Riley. And then on the way, very cool, very neat, very pretty view. I'll show you pictures after this. I think you probably have already seen them.
We could probably put them up like in this video.
We'll see.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not the one who has to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just lazy maxing real quick.
But you did walk up an entire mountain. So.
Well, and I did call myself a cheap, dirty bum earlier. So. But yeah, just do that. On the way down the mountain, I'm 22, so I can legally drink in the United States, and I could extra legally drink in Germany because the legal drinking age there is 18.
Lower, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to say this. I had, I think, one thing of schnapps and an Aperol Spritz and a thing of French fries at the bottom of the mountain. Dude. Not the best fries I had in Europe. Not even particularly close, but at the point I was like, these are so good.
Wait, so after you were already back down the mountain?
Yeah, down the mountain. Okay. I drank and ate French fries.
Because I was going to say, that would be a bad thing to like eat and drink before you walked up the mountain.
Yeah. I did eat hotel breakfast, but there was like 2 hours of train ride between hotel breakfast and walking up the mountain. But
well, that's good. You didn't get... Well, actually, I guess you did cramp, so...
Well, my calves just hurt. I didn't cramp. My calves were sore.
But that was later.
Yeah, that was like a day later. I will say, this place is like a 2-hour train ride from Munich. So if you are in Munich, be prepared for like a 2-hour train ride.
Because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, because it really is out in the middle of nowhere. Like, looking on the map, you're pretty close to the Swiss border. It's pretty close to the Swiss border. It's pretty close to the Austrian border. I mean, relatively. We're talking about, like, nationally. Like, you probably could walk to the Swiss border, but it might take you a couple days. On the way back from this castle, our train got stuck in a random town in the middle of nowhere in Bavaria. Just like a town out in the field that has train tracks running through it. We just sat there for like an hour and a half because some guy like derailed a train like lightly somewhere up the track, and they just kept us there for a little bit.
Yeah.
So we just got to sit around and look at the pretty mountains. And while I'm standing on the train platform talking into my phone for a thing, right? I was like I was talking to my phone for like a voice log we had to do for this thing. I was like, man, I should just go walk out in the field and lay down. That'd be so aesthetic. And then I didn't do that because I knew it was going to happen. I was going to walk out in the field. The train was going to turn on and leave me. So I just sort of stood there like wistfully gazing at the mountains in the background. I was like, man, I want to go lay in the field. And then I just didn't. Rest of the group that didn't go to the castle had a free day in Munich. Kind of regret not having a free day in Munich, but I went to the castle, so who cares?
Castle sounds pretty cool, though.
Castle was really cool. I'm a little unhappy they didn't let us take pictures inside of it, but it was very cool.
Is it like a no flash photography kind of thing?
It's no photography at all.
Oh wow.
The inside's very pretty.
Why is that? Would it
because
like, damage?
No, because they want you to go see it.
Oh.
Yeah, because they want you to actually show up in person.
That makes sense, though.
Probably because keeping the inside of that castle maintained has got to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, all of the stuff on the walls is either frescoed or tiled, right? And it's frescoed or tiled in a way in which if you have to touch it up, it has to be done by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire castle, basically, is frescoed or tiled. So it probably took a team of dudes, like, 10 years to finish the inside of this castle.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want you touching anything, because if you touch it and break it, it's going to take a team of dudes another, like, year and a half to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know what? I'm going to kind of wrap the German fascist stuff more into Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
We did see Dachau in Munich,
mm-hmm.
which was a concentration camp. Not a death camp. Those are two different things. We'll get into that when we're talking about Sachsenhausen later. But Dachau was a concentration camp. So the people who were sent there were not sent there to be killed. They were sent there to be essentially super imprisoned. Right? Like the kind of imprisoned you probably don't walk away from alive, but the express goal is not necessarily to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with an extermination camp like Auschwitz-Birkenau, or the other ones in Poland whose name escapes me, those were intentionally designed to kill people. Dachau is not necessarily supposed to kill you. It did kill a lot of people. A lot of people died at Dachau, but it was not necessarily for that purpose. Dachau didn't hit me as hard as Sachsenhausen did, which was outside of Berlin.
That's I don't know if I've heard of that one. I don't know if a lot of people have.
Well, because if you've heard of one, you've heard of Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Yes.
Then it's Auschwitz-Birkenau, then Dachau, and then there is, oh god, what's the third one people know? There's a third one people know. Why is it oh god, it starts with an L. It's like Treblinka. If you've heard of three, you've probably heard of those three.
Mm-hmm.
Is Auschwitz-Birkenau, Dachau, Treblinka. All of those generated substantial survivor stories. A lot of people survived all three of them. People survived Auschwitz-Birkenau partially because, well, it's secretly two camps. Not secretly, but in reality, it was two camps. There was a side for concentration camp prisoners. So these are prisoners of war, political prisoners who weren't necessarily Jewish. It's people like communists, socialists, different fascists. Weirdly, a lot of
fascists imprisoned a lot of fascists.
Yeah, weirdly, Ernst Thälmann died in a concentration camp, and that guy was like a turbo fascist.
A turbo fascist.
Yeah, that guy makes like the actual fascist leader of Germany look borderline sane. Like that dude was crazy. He was a little closer to Mussolini and Italian fascists than he was the rest of German fascism, because he was more concerned with being an anti-communist than the social stuff, but he was also just a psycho. That dude was... Pro tip, all of these people were traumatized in World War I.
Right, yeah.
So all of them are kind of a little crazy. Even all the Russians involved in the story of World War II, pretty much all of them were traumatized in World War One, except the really young ones. Like Rokossovsky, I don't think participated in World War One.
Yeah.
But basically all the older Russian generals, older, I mean like 40, all the really old ones are dead. But like even the Russians, the French, massively traumatized by World War One. So just keep that in mind when we talk about World War II and some of the people involved. Is pretty much all of them are kind of going crazy because of World War One. But I'm not sure how much Thalmann participated in World War One. But I want to say he was in it because he was a man in Germany in 1914 who was above the age of 16. So I think he probably participated in World War One to some extent. Anyway, Dachau. It didn't hit me as hard as Sachsenhausen did. We'll get to Sachsenhausen. That one's outside of Berlin, but it's harrowing, especially if you've seen the sort of the gate to every concentration or death camp.
Right.
They're all very intimidating.
Yes.
Even just walking in, you don't appreciate the size of it. People will tell you it's big, it's large. You don't appreciate how large it is, and you don't appreciate how little space people were essentially crammed into.
Right, yeah.
Like the barracks rooms were all destroyed later, but they've reconstructed 2 of them.
For
educational purposes. Yeah. So you can walk in there and see it. They've been reconstructed to the spec I think they were in like World War II, that era. They would have some changes and some things would be different a little bit in each building, but broadly they were basically just, if you've ever been to summer camp, it's kind of like a summer camp bunk room, but instead of having weird kind of comfy mattresses double stacked, it's basically plywood with straw on it, triple stacked to the ceiling for the entire room, with a minimum amount of space between bunks so you can get in and get out. And there would be, theoretically, I think it was supposed to be like 56 people to a bunk room. And they'd have 2 of those per building, and then you would share essentially a bathroom. And by a bathroom, we really mean like 3 toilets, 2 sinks, and a big thing in the middle you peed in. Just gonna gloss over that. But again, if you've ever been to summer camp, just picture that, but like evil. That, but you have no personal space, basically no privacy. And instead of being your friends, the camp counselors will shoot you.
That does sound like an evil summer camp.
Yeah, it's awful. There may be the worst thing to ever happen in the history of humanity. Our tour guide there is a very nice fellow. He was happy to have us because apparently normally...
I love tour guides. Can I just say I love tour guides?
Dude, some of them are so cool.
I've been to like, especially here stateside, the national park, like rangers and stuff.
Oh, dude, all of them are cool as hell.
That like actually run and like do tours at like any national park.
Yeah, all of them are cool as hell.
Oh, they're so fun. And
dude, they're so cool.
And they're so knowledgeable, and like they really do make learning like a lot of fun. I'm like, you really should be like a teacher, but in a lot of ways you kind of already are.
Yeah, like well, and this guy in particular, obviously the thing he's a tour guide for is rather dour.
Right.
But we tried to have as much fun as you possibly could.
Yeah.
Apparently he normally has basically German 9th graders.
Well, if they're anything like American 9th graders, they're probably not great.
No. So he was happy to have American college students because at least we're all like 19 at least, right?
He's like, oh my God.
But what I was getting at is he told us, and a common thing that would happen at Dachau is if a guard didn't like a prisoner, they would walk up to the prisoner and tell them, "Give me your hat." So then if you refused to give them their hat, they could shoot you for disobeying orders.
Right.
And then if you gave them your hat, they would throw it out. So at Dachau, there's a fence, and then there's a little bit of grass on either side of it. And if you were on the grass, they could just shoot you.
Yeah.
Counted as like an attempted escape. So they'd throw your hat on the grass, and then tell you to go get the hat. And if you got the hat, they'd shoot you for being in the grass.
Right.
And if you didn't get the hat, they'd shoot you for not getting the hat.
Right.
So that's a... Yeah.
Because there's no accountability or military tribunal for these guys.
Absolutely not. They weren't even a part of the German army.
Yeah.
They were part of the Waffen-SS.
And there was definitely no.
No,
no.
Well, that type of thing was actually encouraged in the Waffen SS.
Goodness.
So Dachau was used essentially to train people to run concentration camps because it was the first one. It's in Munich. It's in Bavaria, which was for a long time a relatively safe part of Germany for the war, right? If you were having something, in northwest Germany or near Alsace-Lorraine, there's a conceivable there's like a way where the French or someone could get to you, or if you had it out in Poland, the Soviets are kind of right there, right? But Bavaria is relatively far from all the fronts, relatively speaking. It's a German fascist core state. It's a big part of their political identity. And it was the first one, so it was used to train the people who ran other camps. In fact, I think the first deputy commandant of Dachau went on to become someone at Auschwitz-Birkenau. I don't think he was the commandant, but he might have been at one point. I forget his name.
That is also a fun title to have, I gotta say.
Commandant, yeah.
Yes.
Well, dude, it's like the best thing about the Marine Corps. They have a commandant, not anything else. It's like the best part. Same with the Coast Guard. They have a commandant.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing about them.
That's a fun sounding title though. I think that'd be a neat title to have.
I mean, all of the commandants of camps for the Waffen SS are genuinely evil people who deserve to burn in hell.
Sure.
And we'll get to that when we get to Nuremberg. But it's the kind of thing. We'll talk about this more later when I was in France. It's one of the things that I think you kind of just have to go see, right? Like I've spoken to people who've been to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and apparently you have to kind of see it, right? Like there's something I really picked up on was there's a difference between academic understanding.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Or like academically, I understand the events of World War II and the Holocaust and those things very well.
Yeah, you've read about them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Academically, I understand them. On a human level, you kind of don't. Even now, I kind of don't.
Right. Yeah.
But it gets you sort of like it drags you closer to actually getting it.
How do you think? Have you ever been to like a Holocaust museum, stateside? Like
I think I've been to one. Yeah.
Okay.
I've definitely been to a few that had exhibits on it.
Like, so I know there's a big, I can't remember if it's DC or New York, or if DC and New York each have one. I forget which one is like the biggest one stateside, but it's located in one of those two.
If it's in New York, oh God, no, because I've been to the Met in New York, and I think they had a good exhibit as part of their 20th century side.
Yeah.
It was decent. It wasn't like the whole thing, but
so in your experience, that's not like sufficient to really kind of.
I mean, okay, it's a good like.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's a good primer, right? Whereas I think this is about a lot of things. I think there are some things that are good for a museum. There are some things that are great for museums, right? Like physical items or like dinosaur skeletons, completely unrelated to this. Kind of, but dinosaur skeletons, great for museums. Pieces of art, great for museums. Statues, pottery, great for museums. Even stuff like vehicles, right? We'll talk about the French National Tank Museum in summer later. If I can keep this under 3 hours. If we can keep this under like several days of length, I don't know. Maybe we'll do an episode 2 where we talk about France.
Actually, that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, this one will be Germany, the next one will be France and the Low Countries.
That'll work.
But there are some things that are great for museums, and then there are some things that are so tied to like the people and the geography. The only way to do them is to do a museum there. Right.
Like at the physical location. Yeah.
And so I'm not denying that the National Holocaust Museum of the United States is probably really good. It's probably really good. It probably is really human. Dog. There ain't nothing like it.
There's a difference, yeah.
Yeah, ain't nothing like the real thing, right? I think if you are interested in the period and you are willing to kind of swallow how terrible it is, then it's a very interesting experience.
I've been to I've never been to like a concentration camp, but I have been to like I think Alcatraz is probably the closest thing that I've been to that is kind of like when you actually kind of go there, it's like, yes, you read about it, but it's like if you ever go there, you're like, this is kind of creepy. This is kind of spooky.
I wouldn't describe a concentration camp as spooky.
No, you wouldn't?
No, furthest thing from it. Like, you know how, like, this is a very specific experience what I'm about to describe. You ever been, like, out in the woods or out in a field at night and all the hair on the back of your neck stands up?
I mean, I guess I get the feeling. Probably not that specific, but I get the, yeah. No, I
like, all the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you go, oh, this is bad. Like, get me away from this. Like, concentration camps are kind of like that. They sort of, especially if you know what went on there, and I can't imagine Auschwitz-Birkenau has this way more. But you can, I kind of felt this way walking around like Waterloo as well, and Omaha Beach. You can kind of tell when there's more blood in the ground than on top of it. Yeah. Right? Like, you can, especially if you, obviously there are places that have had a lot of blood spilled and then people just don't know happened there, right? Like Oklahoma. That state's soaked in blood, like all of it. And people just don't know or don't care. But with a place like this where you know and you care and you have that academic understanding, being there kind of like forces you into understanding like the gravity of it. Right. Yeah. No. And I wouldn't describe it as spooky per se. Okay. I think you're kind of in the ballpark.
Well, I'll just say, like, I don't know, because I definitely
we could be quibbling about verbiage here and describing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to come off as insensitive.
No,
like, I want to get there. I want to capture.
I think you're kind of on the right track where it's haunting.
That's a good one.
Haunting, harrowing is a good one. They're tough. I
also find it really unnerving just in general. Yeah. Historic kind of like historical locations that are not being used for their intended purpose anymore, regardless of what those purposes might have been.
I suppose.
Almost like it's just kind of
sitting there,
and you're just kind of like walking through it, and I don't know. That's unnerving to me, I guess. It's always unnerving to me.
I think,
especially when it involves anything like wars and.
Well, I think there are some things like that, particularly with wars and human atrocities and things like that. But also, like, a big part of history communication is the good things. Right. Right. Like, there are two sides of the coin. Right. Germany does have some really cool stuff there. Yeah. No. That you should go see because it's cool. Like, this is actually a good segue into Nuremberg. Nuremberg still has most of its old town. It still has most of its old medieval like city walls, and the streets are still cobbled. Walking around the cobbled streets of Nuremberg the day after I climbed up a mountain was not a fun experience. But it still has its old town. So if you want to see like an old city in Germany, Nuremberg's great. Yeah. Apparently their beer is worse than in Munich. Oh darn. But their food was very good.
They might be using the same distillery.
No, they're not. No, they're not. So
they keep it historical over there.
Well, no, I like distilling it in the city. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, they are. They don't have like Anheuser-Busch in Germany. Right. All right. Well, they have Heineken, but actually Heineken's Dutch. They don't have like Anheuser-Busch. They have the guy down the road who makes beer, right? They have like the guy down the road whose family's been making beer for like 600 years or whatever.
They don't need Busch. Yeah, they don't need them.
You do find weirdly some Mexican beer in Germany. Apparently they like Mexican beer. Couldn't tell you why. Saw a lot of Corona. Couldn't tell you why. I don't drink beer, but Nuremberg was very cool.
I think they're pretty just solid beer drinkers all around. Yeah. I think they'll take anything.
Last thing in Munich, I had saffron flavored ice cream.
Interesting.
Tastes like nothing I've ever had before.
In a good way? Okay.
I liked it. I also had banana cinnamon flavored ice cream. That was really good too. And Donner. Oh my God, we'll talk about Donner when we talk about Berlin.
So cinnamon. So it's not just topped with cinnamon. It's literally.
No, it's like in the ice cream. Huh. Dude, it was so good. It's called like the Happy Monkey or something. It was great. It was fabulous. But Nuremberg.
That's like the perfect ice cream name. Just
dude, it was so sick.
If I saw an ice cream truck that was called the Happy Monkey ice cream, I would be like,
yeah, like sign me up, man.
They obviously make the best ice cream.
Yeah, like sign me up. Yeah. Nuremberg, very pretty train station.
reconstructed train station. The original one did get bombed. The new one is the same as the old one, just built in the 60s. But the old town's mostly intact. Their hard liquor's good. Their food's really good. The food in Germany was just really good.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really good.
Now, are there a lot of like franchise restaurants in Germany, just like kind of everywhere you go?
They have them.
Uh-huh.
They don't have as many of them.
Where did you go and eat? Were you in a lot of like chain locations in Germany?
No, I went in one McDonald's the entire time.
So a lot of it was just like kind of mom and pop.
It was like restaurants, right? Like
Okay.
with it. Okay, it wasn't in the same way like how we have small little restaurants in towns here. We have small little restaurants. Like most of the restaurants were large.
Right.
But they were restaurants with like a specific name. Maybe they were owned by a bigger corporation, but they weren't necessarily associated with other restaurants.
Okay.
The one exception to that, Hofbrauhaus, they have locations like everywhere in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like franchised; they're all owned by the same group. But they had one in Berlin. I think they had one in Nuremberg. Very good though. Very, very good. I recommend that. I've went there 2 or 3 times. Nuremberg is very cool. Old city, cool city. They have a bunch of cool architecture still. And if you know about the Nuremberg executioner who kept a diary, they still have his house, and you can like go in there and like look at it.
Is that kind of a museum too?
Yeah, it's really cool. And he was interesting for being an executioner and being literate.
Yeah, so because this was
like the 16th century. So most people at the time were illiterate. And being an executioner was kind of considered a, like, quote-unquote, dirty profession, right? So to the point where his family had been executioners, and they had been commoners who volunteered for it one day and were upgraded to minor nobility to essentially keep them as the executioner family, right? And this guy was, sort of an anomaly in that he had, he learns how to read, he learns how to write. He's a prolific writer, a very intelligent man, and he just writes about his life, like as the executioner. Like some of his diary entries are like incredibly dull. It's just a guy talking about his job, but his job is like cutting people's heads off, right? So like, yeah, decapitated 3 rapers today. Gonna go home to my wife, say hi to my kids. Gonna do it all again tomorrow. And then the next day, it's like hung a thief, imprisoned a cattle rustler, and drowned a man in the river for, I don't know, like assaulting a nobleman or whatever, right?
Does he ever get kind of existential about all the people he's killed?
No, because it was just his job.
That's interesting.
Like, obviously being the hangman, right, or the executioner, because they killed people other ways. You could have your head cut off with a sword, head cut off with an axe. You could be drowned, or you could be hung. And there's actually a distinction between sword and axe. Axe was for commoners and non-soldiers. Sword was for nobility and soldiers. So if you were a soldier and you did some crime and it was legally at that point warranted getting your head cut off, or death, usually death, you could opt for decapitation or hanging, and if you opt to be decapitated, they cut your head off with a sword. So this guy had a giant sword, like in his house, that he would cut people's heads off with.
And they still have it?
I think I didn't see it. I didn't go in his house very much because we were kind of walking past it. But genuinely,
that'd be cool if they still had it.
Genuinely a very interesting story, a very interesting man, a very interesting time.
Yeah.
And he kind of wanted to be something else but an executioner.
Right.
But he was kind of stuck to it because once you do that, you're kind of stuck doing it. It's kind of how medieval trades worked, but especially these sort of like icky jobs like executioners.
Jobs that not many people would probably want.
Yeah, generally you're kind of stuck with that one. You're usually born with that one. At least the pay was good. He was paid well. He married the daughter, like the second daughter of some nobleman. Apparently they genuinely loved each other. Pay was good. Had a nice big house. Respected resident of Nuremberg. Admittedly, I don't think many people talked to him because
he was the guy that cut everyone's heads off.
Yeah.
Or drowned them.
Yeah, or drowned them. That one was a real horrible one. I forget what you had to do to get drowned. But they
something specific.
Yeah, it was like a specific list, and it wasn't like that we tie weights to you and throw you in the river. It was they had the executioner stick your head in a bucket of water until you stop struggling.
That is
Which
pretty crazy.
Can't imagine doing that. Like I can kind of imagine like the procedure for hanging someone,
Yeah.
right? Or even cutting a guy's head off.
Yeah.
Like after the first 2 or 3 times, that probably just becomes business. Manually drowning guys,
Yeah.
that seems like it would get to you.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I'm like, I can't imagine that it didn't. But, I mean, if he just treats it like a profession the whole time.
I think he kind of just said, well, this is my lot in life. This is what I do. His book has been published. It's been translated in English. Go read it. It's very cool. I forget his name, but he was the a Nuremberg executioner's diary, basically. Very neat. Very cool. But Nuremberg, as it related to the story kind of German fascism,
yeah, because his life had literally nothing
no, his
to
life
do
he was
with...
like 400 years before that, right? Like he was there before Germany as a unified concept existed, right? But Nuremberg, as it relates to German fascism, is very much sort of the political figurehead of the movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, where they have their core support base in Bavaria. Nuremberg is where they go to show off how big and cool and powerful they are, right? So infamously, they have a bunch of big, giant military parades there. There is the Nazi Party parade grounds. I just said the name of the party, so I guess we're just screw it.
We'll bleep that.
Okay. Well, I mean, at this point, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know why we're talking around it because I talked about a guy drowning someone earlier. I think if we don't even get AdSense. What am I on about?
No, ads definitely don't run on our...
All right, screw it. The Nazi Party rally grounds. That's what we're talking about, by the way. The Nazi Party rally grounds are in Nuremberg, and they have these giant like gatherings and parades and stuff, and they do like the Hitler Jugend would do like their march with like the shovels and whatever. Big giant area. Now it's a municipal stadium, a big park, and a car racing track. As well as there's one section that is a museum to the party rally grounds. Very good museum. I generally don't like audio guides, but theirs was pretty good. Museum audio guides. I have strong opinions on museum audio guides after being to like 8 museums in 8 days.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of have you seen any like Top Gear?
Yes.
It reminds me of that automobile museum that they try and make audio guides
Yep.
for. And like they're constantly giving visitors like wrong directions, so they're getting lost in like parts of like and they're like going to the wrong exhibits and they're all out of order. I mean, in my experience, that sometimes is what audio guides are like. I'm like, where is the next?
Well,
where am I?
Generally, I prefer to just read the plaque.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of having it in the museum if you're not going to have the plaque? Like, why do I have to use the audio guide?
Yeah.
I know how to read. It's good that the audio guide exists for the illiterate or the blind, right? It's good that it exists for them. I'm happy they can experience that. Both my eyes work perfectly. Well, just about perfectly fine. I think I'm like 1921 on one of my eyes. Right? Both of my eyes work perfectly fine. And I can read.
Yeah.
Just let me read the plaque. I have such beef with the Waterloo Museum over this because you like had to use the audio guide to get anything out of that, and I hated it. That'll be in the France section, probably sometime next week or whenever we get around to that. But this specific one, the Party Rally Ground Museum in Nuremberg, is big, and it is very fascist German architecture-y because it's like spiky almost, like it's lots of hard angles, and you can kind of tell when it was built. Very interesting. Has some very good personal stories of people who were persecuted in the Holocaust. Particularly, this is someone. This is a thing. Another person who went on this trip sort of even caught me up on. The Holocaust extends. This is something we're talking about now because it's going to lead into Berlin. The Holocaust was not just Jews.
Yes. Yeah.
It was not just Jews, and it was not just Jews and the Roma and the Sinti, who I'm calling the Roma and the Sinti to be respectful. it's not just those groups of people. It was basically anyone left of center, so socialists, communists, trade unionists, career criminals were put in concentration camps, career criminals. The heavily disabled were either sterilized or exterminated. Anyone in what we would call now the LGBTQ plus community, right?
Right.
Gay, male homosexuals, female homosexuals, weirdly not at all. Well, not at all, but to a much lesser degree.
Really?
Yeah. Not to minimize that, because it's actually worse. So, like, with male homosexuality, the Nazi regime essentially viewed it was incurable.
Okay.
Like, it was... Like, once you do it, you're basically gone forever. We're just going to kill you.
Right, so it's just, like, misogyny.
Yeah, but
Kinda
they
fits into
viewed
those kinds of,
female
like...
homosexuals as essentially still being able to fulfill their purpose.
Oh, see, that's misogyny, too.
Yeah, if you catch my drift, fulfill their quote-unquote purpose of being good German mothers.
Yeah.
If you kind of understand what I'm saying here.
So very, very misogynistic society.
Yeah,
you know?
A little bit of what we would call systemic sexual assault. Plus... I'm not going to, you know what I said it earlier, is essentially systemic rape at points, right? Which I think I'd rather die, honestly. So yeah, it's actually worse for women in a lot of ways, worse for the homosexual women in Germany at the time. But like I said, I could go into the whole classification system of what...
Bad for a lot of different people.
Yeah, bad for basically anyone who was not a cis, straight, ethnically German right-winger. Pretty bad for you in general, if you didn't at least pass as those. And it is very unfortunate, because genuinely Weimar Germany, the regime before the fascists came into play, was extremely progressive. On pretty much every issue, they're like more progressive than parts of the United States are today. In like 20s Germany, they had the essentially the first clinic for trans individuals was in Berlin, in Weimar Germany. Now obviously once the Nazis come to power, all those dudes wind up shot in a ditch in Poland, basically. But you know, it existed as like a legitimate branch of medicine in parts of Weimar Germany. So it is very tragic. But
that's really interesting how the script flipped it like that, just kind of like over the course of,
you know, like 4 years pretty much. 1929 to 1933. Weimar Germany was, you know, at least in the cities, extremely progressive, and then the Nazis come in and suddenly we're dragged back to, you know, the Nazis. But no. Specifically, we're just going to move on to Berlin now, because Nuremberg was neat, but we didn't spend too much time there. Berlin, we spent a lot of time in. Berlin... The big World War II thing we visited was the Reichstag, the Berlin Holocaust Memorial Site, which is not a museum. It's like a park thing. I'm not going to describe it too much. If you ever in Berlin, go there. It's incredible. A Soviet War memorial, the parking lot where the Führer bunker used to be, and the Reichstag were the big first couple days, and then we went to Sachsenhausen later that day. So the Soviet War Memorial we saw was the small one. It was huge. Apparently there are two big ones in Berlin we didn't get to see. But this one was giant. Had a pair of T-34 1943s, a couple of, I think, two D-30 122mm howitzers, and a pair of A-19 122mm field guns. Giant nerd, outing myself as knowing the model number of the field guns.
So...
howitzers, big pieces of artillery, and like a big thing and a bunch of graves. Saw some cool churches.
So the Soviets were just honored there, or were they buried there in Berlin?
So the specific Soviet war memorials were in East Germany. They were in what used to be East Berlin. They were built by the Soviets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They were built by the Soviet Union.
Right.
Pretty much as... Germany doesn't have any war memorials, basically. There's like 6 in the whole country, and like 4 of them were built by the Soviet Union, right? And the other 2 were built, I think, by the United States and the British.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have no war memorials in Germany for Germans for obvious reasons. They might have a few for World War I. But this specific Soviet one was for the Soviet soldiers who were killed mostly in the Battle of Berlin. And then there's another one that is Soviet and American. They split in, I think, 1946. That is Soviet and American. And then there's a third one outside the city a little bit. That is broadly all the victims of the war. That day we went to Sachsenhausen as well, which was by Berlin. So it was sort of the place you went if you went into concentration camp and they didn't want to send you off to Bavaria or out to Poland. So it had a lot of high-level political prisoners, a lot of high-level former Nazi political prisoners, former because they got caught doing something they shouldn't have been, like embezzling.
Embezzlement.
Yeah. Went there. Lots of prisoners of war. Lots of, especially communists, wound up in Sachsenhausen. But Sachsenhausen near the end, this kind of happened to most concentration camps near the end, kind of except for Dachau, because Dachau was kind of far from everything and then just got rolled over by the U.S. Army in like 2 days. But Sachsenhausen near the end started just executing prisoners.
Yeah.
So they would just take you out in a field, shoot you, get the next batch to drag your body into a pit and then burn you. And they have the pit they have like a thing where you can see the ash pit that has like a couple thousand people in it.
Yeah.
And they have the basement where they used to dissect prisoners' bodies.
Dang.
Sachsenhausen made me cry like 4 times.
Where is that? Is it in, like,
It's outside Berlin.
Okay, so it's not like inside the city.
No, it's outside Berlin.
Okay.
It's like a 2-hour... No, it's like more like, from the city center, it's like an hour.
I would imagine the city has kind of grown over the years, too.
Not that direction.
Okay.
It is in Oranienburg, which is a suburb, and Oranienburg kind of skirts around it. Like, there's kind of I don't know if you can necessarily see it on a map, but if you look up Sachsenhausen Memorial on a map, you can see there's like a little bit of space there's like Sachsenhausen, a little bit of space, Oranienburg, more suburb, Berlin. So they've kind of built around it. It's still there. I actually recommend it. It got to me way more than Dachau did.
Was it just a more like...
I don't know, I think I was just more primed for it.
Okay.
I was just more primed for it.
Because I was wondering if it was like a more complete kind of like depiction of...
No, the Dachau, the museum, like the museum aspect of Dachau was incredible. It was a very, very good depiction. It's just Sachsenhausen, I generally think this about some very large museums and memorials. They can be a little impersonal, and Sachsenhausen was small enough to still be highly personal.
I would also think at some point it would occur to you, I mean, speaking of like the scale at which the stuff was happening, I mean, it's like, so you visit like one and it's like, that's one.
Yeah.
Right? But then,
and then it kind of clicks in your brain that there are more of these that are the same or worse.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so it kind of goes back to like, you read about like how many concentration camps there were.
Yeah.
And you think, well, that is a lot of them. But then you realize like all of them are kind of the same size as like, you know, this one.
Yeah, all of them are like this or bigger, right? Yeah. So it's an experience I thoroughly recommend, but I wouldn't do again.
Yeah.
I would go to Auschwitz-Birkenau.
That's what I've heard of. That's what I've heard of Holocaust museums, even stateside.
I'd go to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and then I think I'm good for concentration camps for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't really think I need to go back to them ever again. But Berlin, we're going to kind of wrap up like the Nazi stuff, because we did in Berlin too, but like the Nazi regime as it came apart in 1945, essentially Berlin is a convenient way to talk about the transition out of World War II and into the Cold War. And we're going to talk about the Nuremberg trials here too. Because we did see the trial building in Nuremberg. I sat in the courtroom. They have a reconstruction. It's the same building.
That's actually the only reason I've ever heard of Nuremberg.
Yeah, it's where they had the trial afterwards, and I have thoughts and opinions on that. But largely, what happened after World War II was a select number of high-ranking German military officials and/or political officials were executed, and everyone else got slap on the wrist and got let go after a year or two. And that was to get Germany back on its feet, because the Soviet Union could walk across the border any day now and we'd be in World War III.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a lot of exigencies were pulled to create the West and East German governments out of essentially thin air, and that meant employing a lot of people who were Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
So when we consider that, and then we go look at the Nuremberg trials, right? Where you have, the highest ranking Nazi they actually got for the Nuremberg trials was Hermann Goering, who was the chief of the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, probably Hitler's number 3 guy. Really big deal in German politics. And he was sentenced to death, but took his own life with a cyanide capsule before it could be carried out. A number of other high-ranking Nazi officials were sentenced to death. Weirdly, a small amount of them. I think it was 7 or 8 of the ones who survived the war, because a good number of them didn't. Obviously, Hitler himself shot himself in his bunker as the Soviet Union was entering what was pretty much had control of Berlin. Fun fact, the place he shot himself is now a parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's buried under 30 feet of concrete, and there's a parking lot and an apartment block on top of it. And the German government is incredibly cagey about anything near the parking lot saying anything to do with what happened there. They let a essentially Holocaust victims' rights group put a sign not on the property, on a public road near the property. Mm-hmm. That is relatively vague. But it is got to be the most photographed parking lot in Germany.
Probably one of the most photographed in the world.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the most photographed parking lots in Germany. I have 2 pictures of a random parking lot that if you didn't know the context of it, just be like, Brian, why the hell did you take this picture? And I go, oh yeah, that's where the Führer bunker was. That's where Hitler shot himself.
I kind of like the fact that it just is like this. I think that's kind of. I like that it's just a parking lot now.
Well, it's the ultimate historical insult. It's you're
exactly.
so vile, we're not going to bother remembering you.
Oh, yeah. Like, you don't get a statue or anything.
Yeah, like, nothing about you deserves to be remembered beyond that you were an evil man who did evil things. Segueing conveniently into my unironic hot take is that anyone above, any commissioned officer in the German army and anyone on the Nazi party registry should have been shot.
And they weren't.
No.
Not most of them, at least.
Genuinely, I do not care about justice in this case. I'm generally for rehabilitative justice. I'm generally against the death penalty. All right? Anyone who participated in the Holocaust whatsoever, quite frankly, deserves worse than death. There really isn't something worse than death, but genuinely the amount of people who during the war got away with slave labor, systemic human rights indignities ranging from lack of privacy to, like, don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but slavery of a different sort,
mm-hmm.
of a more exploitative sort, all the way down to just straight up torture, right? The gamut of things that have happened, right? Like I said, I academically understood the Holocaust, but going there and seeing it and then understanding like the systematization of it.
Yeah.
And it's like industrialized killing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I don't mean in a war. I mean industrialized slaughter is perhaps the better word.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's industrialized extermination of groups of people. Okay? If you even passively participated in that, there is no world in which you should have lived past 1946.
Right.
Quite frankly, I don't agree with the Stalinist Soviet Union on a lot. I kind of agree with the Soviets that anyone in the German army who is over a certain rank should have probably just been shot. Oh, you found him out in a field? Oh, he's surrendering? No, he wasn't. He had a gun in his hands. We killed him. Too bad. Right? And you even see this is a relatively popular attitude amongst the troops. when the U.S. Army rolls into Dachau, a good chunk of the camp staff are alive and try to surrender and just get shot in the head. There was a U.S. Army investigation in which they found we probably committed a war crime because a good chunk of the camp staff at Dachau were lined up against a wall and shot in the back of the head.
Were there such thing? I mean, before we actually had
there was
the
the 1911 Geneva Convention.
That's right. Okay.
That did stuff like if the enemy is surrendering, you can't just shoot them.
That actually did precede World War II.
Yeah, it did. There was another one in the 20s. There was another Geneva Convention in which a lot of these things, like chemical weapons, were banned.
Right. And then used anyway.
Well, not in World War II.
Not World War II?
No.
Okay.
Not in World War II. Chemical weapons are largely... Chemical weapons are sort of like the nuclear weapons before nuclear weapons, because once you let the genie out of the bottle in a specific conflict, it's never going back in.
Yeah.
So, like, once you start using chemical weapons, the other guy starts using them.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of just agreed it's not really worth it, outside of some edge cases with, like, tear gas. But tear gas is not necessarily lethal. Obviously, it's not air. If you breathe it enough, it'll kill you.
Right.
But it's not, like, poisonous. It's not going to kill you by just existing near you. It's going to kill you by asphyxiation. So the French used tear gas in World War II a little bit for, like, bunkers and stuff. But largely chemical weapons are not a part of World War II almost at all.
I did think I remembered that there were just a lot of... Technically, under the Geneva Convention, there were a lot of war crimes committed, but maybe not. Well,
but I don't really care about the Allied ones. I don't care at all.
Okay.
And let me explain to you why. So you will hear... see, now we're getting to Bryan's political opinions. This is about to get bad. You will hear a lot of apologists for fascists say that, oh, but the Allies committed all these war crimes too. You know what war crimes the Allies committed?
Well, it sounds shooting people in the back of the head.
Yeah, but we really don't care about that one. I'd argue that one was a good thing. They've broadly fit into three categories. Technically a war crime, both sides did it, I don't care. Technically a war crime, you started it, I don't care. Technically a war crime was actually a good thing, I really don't care. So stuff like killing the camp staff at Dachau. Mm-hmm. Were they surrendering? Probably. Did they wind up dead? Yes. Were they the camp staff at a concentration camp?
Yeah.
I think at that point, you are doing what I would describe as justice. The second one, broadly mistreatment of prisoners of war. All sides of World War II did this, really except the United States. We did it to a degree, but we didn't have it as bad as everyone else. The US and the British were really the best about this. Because when the French took prisoners... Okay, let me put it like this. If you were a soldier in World War II, you really didn't want to be captured by the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. You really didn't want to be captured by the Germans. You didn't want to be captured by the French. If you had to be captured, I guess the British will do. And the Americans are actually pretty cool. And we're just ignoring the Japanese because they're just as bad as the Germans. But
did the Japanese take prisoners as a general?
Very small amounts of them.
Yeah.
They took almost none. They took a few. Largely, the only time they took prisoners was mass surrender of entire garrisons. So in the Philippines, like in Bataan, if you've heard about the Bataan Death March, the entire city garrison of Bataan just surrendered, and then had a bunch of war crimes done on them. Back to Europe. So something like mistreatment of prisoners of war happened on all sides, and it essentially happened on all sides to some degree, just different extents, and both sides are guilty of it at points. Obviously, the Soviets and the Germans were worse for it. The Americans and the British were a little better. The British had their moments. The French had their moments. Okay, if you want to read about an absolutely horrid time to be alive, being an Italian prisoner of the Free French in North Africa, you were in for it, buddy. Had like 400,000 prisoners, something like 130,000 of them made it back to Italy.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Real bad time. And then we have the ones that are technically war crimes, but the other guy started it first, so I don't care, and that is the Allied strategic bombing campaign. It's the biggest one you hear times is, oh, but the firebombing of Dresden. Shouldn't have done the Blitz then. You don't want to get strategically bombed. Don't let the genie out of the bottle. All right? That's what most of war is. If you aggress and do something, the other guy's going to do it back, and if he's better at it than you, skill issue. All right, so the German terror bombing campaign in London, well, it's also kind of a strategic bombing campaign, but it's the Blitz.
A lot of early World War II, historically speaking, was a lot of just having Germany be really, really advanced in specific kind of warfare strategies.
I disagree.
Yeah?
I disagree. You know, Germany's enemies in the opening months of World War II? Poland, a nation with an economy a third the size and about half the population.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Denmark, a country with an economy not even close to Germany and a minuscule population.
Mm-hmm.
Norway, same boat as Denmark. There were more German soldiers in Denmark at points than there were Danes, right?
Yeah.
And then the French, a nation so hideously ravaged by the Great War that genuinely they were not over the economic ramifications of the Great War until the 1970s. A nation that had 13 governments in 8 years, with an army hit ridiculously hard by the Great Depression, and a military bureaucracy still thinking they were fighting World War I again.
Yeah.
So, of course they beat Poland. Of course they beat Denmark and Norway. France, I'll give them, that was a lot of good luck.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to fighting the British, you can see in North Africa, they have their ups and downs. With the Blitz in London, they have their ups and downs. The idea that Germany was technologically more advanced than the Allies is just not true.
Well, what about in terms of military strategy?
They were early to some concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So they were early on stuff like the general purpose machine gun. They arguably made the best one. They were early on the assault rifle. Their ideas about like how armor is to be used in warfare, eventually they would get here because there was a bunch of debate about it. And then in France, Guderian and Rommel just chuck it out the window and say, screw it, we're going to do what we want. And if it didn't work, they would have been executed probably, but it did work, so they got promoted.
Isn't that just how that goes?
Yeah. It is somewhat more advanced than what, like, the British were thinking about. But if you look at the Soviet Union, who is thinking about, like, deep battle as a strategic concept, not necessarily as a tactical concept, but deep battle as a strategic concept is a more advanced line of thinking in the same tree as the German one, where and you can see the Soviet Union essentially flip this on the Germans and be better at it in like 1944, where the Germans would launch a ton of probing attacks all across the front until they find a weak point, and then they would rush their big, they called it a Schwerpunkt, big massive armor into that weak point and break through and then go as far as they could, circle back and cut off a big massive enemy troops.
Mm-hmm.
The Soviet approach to this was similar, but instead of probing attacks, they would launch a full-on across-the-line offensive, backed up by everything they could offer, and then commit their reserves to a breakthrough that happened. So they're not forcing a breakthrough like the Germans were. And for the Germans, this works, largely because they have not better tanks, but they have more of them than their enemies. Like in France, they had more tanks, not better tanks. North Africa, they had more of them. Well, when they were winning, they had more of them. When they were losing, they had less of them. All right, so what matters necessarily is not the quality of your vehicles. What matters is the amount of them and if they work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because most of what an armored vehicle is going to do is fight infantry. And a Panzer I is just as good at fighting infantry as a Tiger is, basically. Right? Or a Panzer III. Panzer I is really, really compromised. That's not a good tank. But so the Soviet approach to this is more intentional, right? Whereas the Germans are kind of just running at the enemy until they see a weak point and then going through that and hammering it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially against someone like the Soviet Union, who has so much ground to give and fights for every inch. What in France were easy mop-up operations of demoralized troops turned into long, grinding battles where the Soviets were bleeding equipment off, the German front line, that then we see in stuff like the collapse around Stalingrad. Once that Schwerpunkt runs out of juice, you are stuck for 6 months. No more moving forward. You got to fix all your tanks. You got to let all your dudes rest.
Yeah.
The Soviet approach, where it's still essentially an armored spearhead. That's what we're talking about here. It's just that the Soviet ones do not stop because they are an offensive. They have an offensive behind them, right? Whereas on the German front, as well as their logistics sucked hot. Their logistics were awful. But if you look like the strategic plan for Germany, it is get one breakthrough and then win the war.
Yeah.
And in France and Poland, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Anyone with a brain is going to look at a nation like Russia and realize you could get 6 or 7 breakthroughs, and they did. They did actually get like 5 or 6 breakthroughs. The Soviets just never gave up.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the Japanese thinking with Pearl Harbor, right? It's not a bad idea. It just assumes the enemy to be more demoralized than he is. Your plan should never be contingent upon your enemy doing something.
Yeah.
Right? Never base your military plans on what you think, on the way you think your enemy is thinking. Right? Like, obviously, take that into account. I'm not saying do whatever you want, don't consider the enemy. Consider the enemy. Consider what he will do. But if your plan hinges on your enemy making a mistake, doing something stupid, giving up, maybe it's a bad plan. Right? And it's an understandable line of thinking. But again, if you look at Germany's pre-war experience in the Spanish Civil War and the Soviet Union's pre-war experience in the same war and at Khalkhin Gol out in the Far East, the Soviets come away with the idea that, well, we need a lot of tanks, a lot of artillery, and a lot of airplanes, and we need them to be available, and we need them to be good. Now, they didn't really get to that because of Stalin, but by 1943, they had largely gotten to that. They had good vehicles in large numbers that were well supplied and could do all these advanced strategic and tactical tasks. Whereas the Germans really just did one thing, and they did it the whole war, and it stopped working. Like, you look at the winter offensive in the Meuse-Argonne in 1944. Just a disaster. Basically lost the war for Germany in the West. But it was what they were doing. So I think what I would say about Germany is they are early to strategic and tactical concepts.
Sure.
Their execution of those concepts is not always the best. Particularly when they are faced with a very difficult opponent. Like when they're faced with U.S. Army forces in France, and they are kind of expecting them to be a little bit like North Africa, where the U.S. soldiers are kind of just checked out. They don't really want to be there. And then you get stuff like the 82nd Airborne around Bastogne, fighting in some cases literally to the man, right? So I think that idea that Germany was technologically or militarily more advanced than the West is just A, not true, and B, I know where it comes from, but it's just not true, right? And some of that obviously is their like wonder weapons, right? Like the V1 and the V2 rockets and flying bombs. They had jet aircraft, a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what they didn't have?
What didn't they have?
The atomic bomb.
That is true.
You know what else they didn't have?
Probably something important.
The VT fuse. Let's just make airplanes obsolete, guys. We got the VT fuse. Would have been great for Germany. Would have been fabulous if they could have hit the VT fuse. Things would have gone way better for them.
Yeah.
If they could have got the atomic bomb, things would be very different. But I think even if you look at sort of like these big kind of wonder weapon-y projects, the West has better ones. I mean, the atomic bomb and the VT fuse are better than whatever hell Germany was making. I mean, to the point where they almost have two halves of an IRBM, right? A V2 with a nuke tip on it is basically an intermediate range ballistic missile. And those are still scary right now. Like, a V2 with a nuke on it is still scary right now.
In fact, the Ukrainians basically reinvented the V1 like 2 years ago. Check out the Flamingo cruise missile. It's ridiculously close to a V1 flying bomb, pulse jet and all. But I don't know. I came away from this whole trip with like a very interesting view of Germany's place in 20th century history.
Yeah, what do you think of Germany, kind of in a historical context, but then also like as you see it like today?
I think Germans now are the freest and happiest they've ever been. And I think that a Germany that is free and happy and loves its neighbors is the only good Germany for the world. I think a Germany that looks to have greater influence in Europe and look outside of itself is a Germany that's making a mistake. I think the Germans are like the Austrians and the Swiss fundamentally, right? They're happiest when you leave them alone and let them do whatever weird little clock-making, chocolate-making industrial task they want to do. Okay?
That sounds kind of stereotypical.
I mean, that's what Switzerland. That's what they have in Switzerland. You know what they have in Switzerland? They have like 3 industrial mechanical plants, 15 chocolate makers, a bunch of watch guys, okay? And a couple banks. My point here, though, is I think broadly, nations as a whole are better when they look at their neighbors as people who are just a little bit different from us, not people to be conquered. Mm-hmm. Right? Or people to be subjugated, or people who are anything except people. Mm-hmm. And I think modern day Germany has done a lot to atone for its sins. Obviously, there are some things that we'll never get over, but I think modern day Germany is removed from the worst of its tendencies. I think that's productive of them, right? Whereas if we look at the United States, I'd say we're kind of in a bad spot, historically speaking. We're overdue for a big war. We're just about due for a civil war. We're just about due for another economic crash. We're just about due for another huge hurricane. So yeah, look out, screaming 20s. We're coming in. So, I mean, historically it lines up, right? Because we could have another big economic crash, and then an ecological disaster, and then a big war. We're probably going to lose this time. So
that sounds really.
I mean, we probably won't. We might not lose, but
still kind of.
One thing I do want to talk about. Final thought: go to the German Luftwaffe Museum. If you're ever outside Berlin, go to the German Luftwaffe Museum. It's an hour bus ride from the city center. Just go. It's super cool. They have a bunch of cool airplanes. If you like airplanes like I do, go. It's really neat. Also, go to the Panzer Museum Munster. I didn't get to go because I was in Munster, but it's very cool. I did get to go to the one in France. Yeah. Riley, you have any questions for me?
I asked them as they came.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
We're going to have to do a second episode of this. Because I feel like we've been talking for like an hour and a half.
Just about. Yeah,
so we're going to have to do a second episode where we talk about Belgium, the Netherlands, and France.
Oh, geez. How many countries did you go through?
Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France.
Were they all as kind of jam-packed as Germany?
No, but I was on my own schedule. So Germany, I was there on the tour group's schedule.
Right.
Everything else, I was on my schedule. And I take things slower. A lot slower. So I spent like 4 days in Brussels, and I probably could have spent 2 days and gone and saw everything I wanted to see, but I wanted to spend more days there because I like Belgium.
So, next time
I yap about France. For an hour and a half. Again, might be more, actually.
Look for that next week.
Yeah, look for that whenever it gets uploaded.
We'll see everybody next time.